tell me if this sounds familiar at all. There was this pastor, and he was down. He was discouraged, and that's just code for he was fighting depression. And he went to his altar. It was a Monday morning, and he knelt down, didn't even turn the lights on, and the tears just fell. I mean, the dam broke. It was just bitter, ugly, gutter-crawling, commode-hugging crying. And he sat there and he prayed. The only thing he could think to pray was, God, you have got to do something. He had just taken over pastoring this church. The founding pastor had 22 stents in his heart, kidney failure, shingles, high blood, you name it. And they had to quickly hand this off to the number two. And the number two had no clue what was waiting for him. When he opened the books, he saw that they were not making it, like, at all. So he was at the altar and he was pouring his heart out. God, you've got to do something because it looks bleak. There's no way. We can't do this. We're not even going to be able to make rent. And if you don't show up and show off, we're done. In fact, Lord, the pastor said he is done. So he got up. He had just left his financial admin's office, came back and saw that for the first time under his pastorship, they would not be able to make the rent payment to the landlord. It's already been renegotiated once, then twice, then 3 times, and his testimony in that town was already starting to hit the skids. So he had to send the email he didn't want to send saying, sir, I am so embarrassed. I am so ashamed. I cannot even send you the rent. Please don't evict us. Please don't evict us. Give us another shot. Then he remembered what week it was. And ADP, that glorious payroll processing company, was about to begin that digital robbing of your bank account, reaching into the bank account to try to attempt to pay the staff. But he saw the bill pile, and the pastor was saying, there's no way. We've already robbed Peter to pay Paul. How many times can you rob Peter before he says enough? They were barely paying the power bill at this point. And he pulled it up, and he looked at the payroll. He looked at his staff, all of them part-time. None of them, could do without this paycheck. And he said, who do I decide doesn't get paid? What do we do? They all work hard. The pastor was the only full-time guy. He knew he needed it. His wife didn't work. They were homeschooling the kids. So he picked up the phone, called the admin up and said, listen, call ADP and tell them everybody gets paid. We're going to step out on faith except for the pastor. Hold his check. Just hold it. Oh, no, we can't do that. You need to get paid. No, I'm not asking. Hold the check. Then, just like that phone ringing, he picked up the phone and he made another phone call that really hurt his feelings. He called his wife and he said, don't pay the mortgage. Don't do it. Because we're not getting paid. We may not get paid this month. And then he broke down again and he realized he is failing to be a provider. And he was discouraged. The church was in a tailspin, going to wreck his own personal finances. Bankruptcy loomed. You been there? It was a dark day. And I'm just being painfully transparent. Y'all know the story. That was me 5 years ago. And it was tough. And I reached out, thankfully, to some godly pastors and some friends and poured my heart out to the Lord. I said, God, you've got to do something. This is so far beyond me. I didn't even want this job. How did I get here? If you don't do something. And so through some good counseling and some therapy, in fact, I poured out my heart. We have a therapy dog. This is a picture of my actual dog after I shared some of my stories. I love his expression. Maybe some of you have used that same therapy dog. I love his expression because you've been there, maybe not quite as dire. If you can't identify with that, maybe you can identify with this next quote here, which is just a little bit less dire, but it says this. Here's the frustrated pastor quote. I feel like our church should be able to relax a little, maybe have some savings in the bank and not live offering to offering, but I'm afraid those days are gone. Sure, we can pay our bills in spite of our debt, but we never get ahead. Oh, you feel this? We never get ahead. There's barely anything left at the end of the month. What's amazing to me is that over the last 5 to 10 years, maybe let's say our generation, tithes and offerings have declined while salaries and wages have gone up. Is that not strange to anybody? Pay's gone up, Hourly wages have gone up. Salaries have gone way up, especially in some of our communities. Yet tithes and offerings have continued to decrease. I was talking with Chris over lunch, and one of the things he said, we were sharing some of these stats, and it's Faith Communities Today came out with a report. And remember, this is before the pandemic, that says this: the median church budget fell from $150,000 in 2009 to $125,000 in 2014. Think about, y'all, that's before the pandemic. Think about that. You know it's gotten worse. I mean, what is the stats after that? That's almost a 20% falling when everything else was increasing. So how do these numbers look worldwide? Probably a lot worse. In fact, Colin, you've seen him running around with the camera. Here is an actual photo of one of you today walking in making these comments. You check out your bank account, and now you're too afraid to look. Actual photo. And we think, what is happening? Why are things so bleak? God, aren't you in control? This is your church. This is your kingdom. So I had a few pastor meetings, fast forward about 4 or 5 years, and I'm meeting with Chris Hankins and a few of you, and I said, how are you doing? How is your church? You know, how are you personally? How's your finances? How is your church doing? Are you struggling? And one of the things that Pastor Chris said, he said, Matt, you know, my heart goes out to some of these churches who were already just hanging by a thread before the pandemic. Because you just know that after the pandemic, man, all those strings, they're cut. What do? There's no pastoral slush fund, right? It's not like the media says, like we got these gold-plated jets we fly around in, right? I hope you don't have one of those, right? There's no pastoral slush fund. There's no side little stash that we have, no rainy day fund or backup plan, especially if you're a church plant. For them, they're barely making ends meet. I mean, that PPP, woo, that was a drop in the bucket. That was long gone. Woo, love that government money. Ricky Bobby, he already spent it. What do you do now? Well, we had a heart-to-heart, and I started talking to some people, and it began to dawn on us that we have to have a paradigm shift, because the reality of, after talking to all these pastors before the pandemic, and this was a trend that we all saw coming, is this: tithes and offerings alone, not enough. Not anymore. Unless you're a legacy church, or you got a paid-off building, or you got some old brick colonial thing downtown or something, you all know it is tough. Tithes and offerings are no longer enough. So what do we do? Well, I've got great news that I want to share with you in these last 12 minutes, and so just hear me. The bride of Christ is alive and well. It is not going anywhere. The church of the living God is here to stay until he comes back for his own. Our situation from 4 years ago is drastically different because of one model ministry mindset change. And it happened because I was sitting at a table and a statement was made by a good pastor, probably all of you know, I won't name him, and he looked at me and he said, you need to quit thinking about the needs of your church. You need to stop being so self-focused. In other words, he just said it. Quit being so selfish. Wow. Man, that was a spanking, right? You know, that's an unspiritual way. I mean, it encouraged me. And after that sting went away, I said, thank you, sir. May I have another? And he gave me another. And he started popping me over and over, and he says, you got to stop thinking about your little fiefdom, your little slice of the pie, only your little world. Because if that's all you care about, that's all you will ever have. What about your community? Quit acting them to come be like you, be in your place. They don't even know you. I was just like blown away. It was such tough love, but it was such truth that I needed to hear. I needed to have a kingdom view. And he said, Matt, from this day forward, think of your facilities, your church, as a community center hub that is designed to bless your neighbors. I was, you're killing me. You're killing me, Smalls. I don't understand. How can we do this? And he said, seriously, think about this. This is a community center all week long that just happens to double as a church. And watch your focus go from inward to outward. And from that day forward, we began to think of ways to bless our neighbors. We began to think of ways, God, how can we build bridges with these people when they see that our building, let's be honest, is sitting empty 90% of the week. And those lost people that we claim to love are driving by us, and they're going, look at that huge facility sitting there empty. Yep, that's just like those Christians, only care about themselves. Woo, because it's sitting empty. I had no clue how much they were struggling to find places. So we started to talk to people. And I tell you what, y'all, the blessings that came were not just spiritual and relational, but they were financial. I had no clue how many hungry organizations were out there. So we began to pray and reach out to them. Community groups, the first one, some faith-based, some secular. Here is the first two community groups that we actually reached out to. One of them is Refit, and one of them is Carolina Academy of Performing Arts. These two groups alone are now bringing hundreds of families into our building. And let's be honest, they were never gonna find us any other way. I mean, I'm not pretending that they were gonna fall in love with us and y'all come be like us. They would never darken our doors, yet here they were. Some of these people, they're going, this is 5 years ago and they're still coming strong. Do you know that half of these people are Mormons? Some guy came up to me. We were in the middle of one of the musicals. I think it was Les Mis or Annie or Christmas Carol, one of them. And a guy came and goes, do you know who you just hugged? And I said, no, I have no clue. He said, that's the leader of the entire stake here in South Central North Carolina of all the Mormons. I said, wow, that's incredible. I can't believe, he goes, I can't believe he felt welcome. What's really blowing my mind is who's sitting behind him on row 7. Have you looked? I said, I don't even know who these people are. He says, that is the bishop for the entire Mormon church, sitting in a Bible church. Y'all, this is not supposed to happen. They don't do that. And I can't tell you how many bridges we built. And slowly those Mormons are coming to know the Jesus you and I worship. And it is incredible. It's not through us. See what happens, we've got a captive audience. They come into the building and they see our posters and our event signs everywhere. Men, they're standing in the men's room, right? We plaster that right in front of them. They're standing up. You're doing your thing, right? You got a captive audience. They better not be looking. That's just weird, right? They need to be looking straight ahead. And they're seeing that. And when they're going and they're waiting for their kids to be picked up, they're in the lobby and they see the plasma screens and these giant flat screens that are scrolling saying, hey, are you struggling with debt? Come check out our Financial Peace University class. It's free Tuesday nights. Come on. Or, hey, how's your marriage? Come to a free date night. We'll take care of your kids. On-site care, free, no questions asked. Or, hey, are you struggling with pornography? You got an addiction that you're having just trouble breaking? Come to our Conquer series. It's free, no questions asked. Why? Because we're one beggar telling another beggar where we found free food. And buddy, when these bridges started to be built, I couldn't believe how my eyes were opened and a whole paradigm shift happened. So he said, what else can we do? How can we meet some physical needs? So we partnered with the North Carolina Convention and we brought in this awesome van. We said, hey, everybody's got issues with dental. Nobody wants to go. This was maxed out. We did it 2 days because there were so many people that wanted to do it. Y'all, look closely. Every one of them got a gift bag to learn about Jesus. Every one of their kids, some of these people were so impoverished, they just brought their kids with them, dropped them off. We got to love on them for 2 and 3 hours while some of them had 5 teeth pulled. We were able to have counseling set up. If they left, they wanted to pray with us. And some of them came up and said, why are you doing this? And we could say, because we love Jesus and he loves you. But I don't understand. What are you getting from me? We want nothing from you except for you to know the love of Jesus. No strings attached to love. Y'all, that is radical to them. And their lives are just like saucers. They can't understand what's happening. When you give with no strings attached, you are never more like Jesus. Think about that. You are never more like Jesus than when you're giving or you're serving. And here we're doing both. What do you think this did for the community? And the black eye that the church often gets, right? How could they complain about it? They would say, I don't get your Jesus. I don't even know what you all believe, but I know this. Look how you love. Oh, it's a kingdom mindset change. I told you it blessed us relationally. But probably the coolest thing that we didn't expect was the flood that came from the next group. And that was pastors and other churches and churches that were wanting to plant. I tell you, once word gets out, it is on like Donkey Kong playing ping pong in Hong Kong. They started lighting up our phone. This guy right here on the top left is Pastor Julius, all the way from Africa. His church was being molested financially by some secular group. I forget, some astronomical charge. He came to me and said, can we please meet in your chapel when you leave? I said, absolutely. How much do you charge? You know what? We're not charging nothing. We're going to take an offer. If you want to do that and you want to give something, slide it under the lady's door as you leave, here's a key. When you hear this group singing in Afrikaans, oh my gosh, it'll blow your mind. The guy on the bottom left, Pastor Cruz, one of 2 Brazilian pastors that have congregations in our, 2 Brazilian? That's a lot. No, 2 Brazilian. 2 Brazilian pastors. And he comes up and he says, thank you, we don't have much. And I said, you don't need anything. Just advance the kingdom. And when word got out that, hey, listen, we are for the kingdom, they come to you. So I want you to start thinking in your world what this does. Because after these groups started to come, I told you there were some financial blessings. We were able to acquire this campus. You'll see the ribbon cutting here. The mayor came out. Every single thing that we were acquiring from here forward was paid for by the community. Think about that. That means all of your tithes, all of your offerings go to ministry now. It is a total win-win for the kingdom. These churches, they couldn't find another place like this that they could meet in, not for the price that they were getting reamed at the public schools or at the community center. And to know that, hey, we're in this together. We are on Team Jesus. It changed everything. And finally, we were able to meet our dream, which was opening our very own preschool. It was a dream we had as we co-founded the church. It opened right as the pandemic was hitting. But I can tell you today, a year later, it is at maximum capacity. In fact, another preschool came and said, hey, we're homeless. Can we meet with you? They're a Russian-speaking preschool. And they're meeting, and you want to hear some funky music coming down that hall. My office is next to them. I feel like Ivan Drago is going to come through the wall. I must break you. And they come up, and they sing. And did I tell you there's a blessing? They slide a check under our office door. The first, man, those Russians are prompt. They pay generous. Not only do they pay for the entire building for us, it is enough to cover the utilities. It's enough to cover the cleaning lady that's now got to come at Saturday at midnight because it's used 7 days a week. It changed my whole paradigm. So here's your challenge. You ready? Get your notes out. In your community, I want you to ask yourself, God, who can we bless? Fine arts groups. This is a gold mine. Not financially. This is a gold mine relationally. There are so many people that need to know Jesus in the arts community, and they are desperate for space. I know in Apex, they rent the Halley out. That thing's it. That thing can hold 100 people. We're fire rated for 600. So they want to have these things, and they keep coming. Think about that. Who can you reach out in the fine arts? Ballet. Oh, they're awesome, and they don't tear up your space. Fitness clubs, preschools, other churches, HOA groups. We don't even charge our community. They come in, they take care of it. Sometimes they'll leave an offering we didn't even ask for. Homeschooling groups. Oh my goodness, this group needs so much love. Karate, weddings, funerals. There is no shortage, okay? So your job is to think about who can you bless? Who can you show love to and say, hey, we are here for you. No strings attached. We just want to love and bless our community. All right? I'm out of time, so I'll be happy to stick around. If you guys have any questions about how to do a lease or how do you say no, we paid a lot of stupid tax, and I'll be happy to save that for you and pay it. Ask me how not to do it. We'll stick around. Thank you, Chris.